there's a phobia regarding this Neet. Phobia means an undue fear, undue fear. So, next slide please. So, it is our duty as doctors to explain exactly what is Neet, fact and a myth. What is fact? We know it's a truth. What is a myth? Myth is a false belief. It has been for a long tradition, but it is not true, but it has been believed that it is true. That is called as a myth. So, I'll start with a fact. Next slide please. Myth and truth about a Neet will be here now. Next slide please. So, facts. I'll always start with a fact. Neet. If you ask your seniors regarding Neet, what they say? What are the points they say regarding Neet? Is it easy or tough? Is Neet easy or tough? Sorry? Tough. Next slide please. The first fact. Next slide. First fact, Neet is tough. Always DNA is evidence based. To say it is tough, I'll say one sample question to prove it is really tough. Next slide. This was a question asked in Neet Phase 2 2016. Why Phase 2? What happened to Neet in 2016? How many phases were there? 2 phases. When was the first phase conducted? When was the second phase conducted? May 1st. When was the second phase conducted? July? Excellent. July 24th. So, this was the question. Just go through this. This was asked for a +2 student trying to become doctors, right? Okay. Next slide, please. Question which was asked in your standard was also asked in the, next slide, please. In the PG entrance exam. Point, I want to underline this. What your standard is, they try to make you come to the standard of an MBBS standard. Finishing MBBS, appearing for MDMS students are also writing the same question here. Not all questions here, but few questions are like this. So, point I want to stress. They want you to come to a certain level to succeed in Neet. Next slide, please. Fact 2. What is the fact 2? Next slide. How many students qualified in Neet Phase 2 exam 2016? What percentage qualified? Sorry? 1. Yeah. Majority of answers for the questions in Neet are there in standard textbooks. It is a truth. At least 90% of your question answers are there in your standard textbooks. And how many of you are preparing for 5 to 6 hours per day? Please put up your hands. And students are giving their 100% efforts for 2 years to get this coveted MBBS seat. But what happens in reality? Books have everything and teachers provide you everything and you read for 2 years. But, next slide please. But, next slide. Marks and ranks are not as anticipated. Then where lies the fault here? Because the percentage of students who qualified in Neet Phase 2 was just 15%. Out of 100 students, only 15% qualified. Some assessment about the examinations. Next slide. Why Doctors Neet Academy was formed? One sample question I'll say regarding this. Next slide. Just go through this and tell me what you know about this procedure called as amniocentesis. Is it there in your books or not? Sorry? It is there in your books. Your state board books are extremely good. Extremely good. Okay, only point I want to underline is it is not being utilized properly. Answer. Sorry? Fourth option, anybody? Second option. Please note, next slide please. Why doctors came into this field? This is a routine procedure done by doctors day in and day out. What is this procedure? It is to take the sample from the mother's abdomen. It is in the this is the fetus, the newborn before delivery. So we collect a sample here and to assess whether this is a normal child or not. It is called as amniocentesis. So when we saw this question, we were stuck actually. This could be explained best by doctors in a much crisper way so that you can get it easily to the students. Next slide please. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah. One more question regarding this. A terminology is hemophilia, Down syndrome, phenylketonuria, sickle cell anemia. When I did my +2 30 years back, these terminologies was never in our textbooks. But are these terminologies in your textbook? Is it there or not? All these terminologies are there. And hemophilia is a disease which a doctor sees day in and day out. What do you mean by hemophilia? What is hemo? What is philia? Hemo is blood. Philia means love. A person who is loving blood. Why? Next slide please. If this gentleman is having a cut, he will not stop bleeding. He needs blood, blood, blood. That is called as hemophilia. All these diseases which we see day in and day out. Down syndrome. Next slide. It is a mentally challenged child, unfortunate child. All these children who we see daily is being asked in your examinations. Next slide, please. Next slide. This prompted us to form a so-called an organization with medical doctors. But there is, what are the 3 subjects which comes in your NEET exams? 3 subjects. Physics, chemistry, biology. Fine. So this is the team we formed here to provide you the best possible. It can be considered as a revolution. Next slide, please. First time in the country, doctors buy doctors for budding doctors. Doctors who have gone through all this phase will channelize you exactly what is required for NEET 2017. Next slide. Now, you might be pondering here, how a doctor is going to come to the level of plus 2 students and train them. A question which might be lingering in your minds. What was done here? Once we started this, next slide. NCERT 11th, 12th books. What is NCERT? Central Board, the so-called Central Board books. And State Board plus 1, plus 2 books were given to all our consultants. And we wanted to filter both what is not here, what is there. And then the last 13 years, AIPMT. Can you please tell me what is AIPMT? All India Pre-Medical Test. This has been transformed into NEET. All these questions were provided to the consultant, and a filter of this is coming as a module in our thing to train you in the apt way possible. Next slide, please. Myth. Now I told you the facts. What is the myth? NEET. What are the other false beliefs you have regarding so-called NEET? Tell me. Try. Even if it is wrong, no problem. What are the other things that your seniors have told regarding NEET? They are told it is tough. They are told it is difficult to get. What else? All of you are in State Board or Central Board? State Board. What is succeed in NEET? It is not a truth. It is a myth. Take it from me. Your State Board books are extremely good. We have gone through each thing. They've been extremely good. 80% of what is there in your NCERT books is there in your NEET so-called State Board book also. Next slide, please. So now I have done, a DNA team has done a scientific comparison of State Board syllabus and CBSE syllabus with relevance to your NEET 2017. We have filtered. What I am giving is a sample from human biology. The same thing applies to the other subjects also. I'll put in a question. First tell me, go through the question and tell me, try to tell me the answer. And second point, I want you to tell me whether it is there in your State Board books or not. Okay? Next slide, please. Now, respiration. Which organ does this respiration? Sorry? Lungs. Okay? Lungs. This respiration, is it dealt in your plus 1 book or plus 2 book? State Board. Sorry? Plus 2. What happens in NCERT? Is it dealt in plus 1 book or plus 2 book? Plus 1 book. There the confusion starts. Okay? That is in your plus 1 for your NCERT books. Now, I'll give you the question here. Next slide, please. The partial pressure of oxygen in the alveoli of lung. This was asked in NEET Phase 2 2016 exam. Try. First, is it there in your plus 2 State Board book? Irka illaya? Is it there or not? It is there. Now try to answer me. A, B, C, D. What is your answer here? Try. No problem if it is wrong here. Next slide. I'll give you the facts which are there in your textbooks. Plus 2 State Board zoology. I've gone through that and given it here. Take your time here. Spend 5 seconds here. Next slide. PO2 is 100 mm in alveoli. PO2 is 96 mm in arterial blood. Now what is your answer? ABCD? More than? Next slide. Answer is more than in the blood. Okay? Now I'll go to the next level they take on. Next level. Listed below are 4 respiratory capacities and 4 jumbled respiratory volumes of a normal human adult. Is this terminology in your plus 2 State Board books or not? Is it there or not? It is not there. This is where they cross the limits here. 80% both are on the same track. After that, they divert here. Next slide. Next slide. See here. The question is, this was asked in your AIPMT 2010. This is what makes you feel that NEET is untouchable. Okay? Which one of the following is the correct matching of two capacities and volumes? Please note, this is not there in your state books, right? Next slide, please. It is there in CBSE +1 book, volume 1721, respiratory volumes and capacities. 2 pages are there. This is the change you have. Apart from that, apart from such questions, your state board syllabus is extremely good. Take it from me, it's extremely good. Next slide, please. So, one more sample. Which of the following is correct regarding AIDS? What is AIDS? Acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. Good. AIDS causative agent HIV. Answer. Is the answer for this question in your books or not? Yes. Good. Answer. Answer is second one. Extremely good. Next slide, please. Is a similar picture in your books? Is it there or not? For a kind information, this similar picture is not there in NCERT books. So what I want to stress, your book is reasonably good, and some questions which they could not have answered, you could answer that. Okay? Next slide, please. So this is the answer. I'm very happy that you answered this correctly. So this is your answer here. Neet phase 2. Next slide. What is myth 2? Suppose if you go and ask your senior, how should I prepare for Neet? What will they say? If you go and say, I'm in state board, I want to write Neet, what is your seniors or any extraneous information? Sorry? You need CBSE, right? What else they say? Coaching class. Anything else? Anything else? Is it the routine method of training, or do you need a different method? What do you say? Next slide. What is the myth here? +2 state board students should totally change the pattern of preparation for Neet. Is this statement, have you heard or not? Yes or no? Yes. Next slide. What they have tried to convey you. What they are saying is, +2 state board is in track 1. Okay? You are running in track 1. What they are saying, NCERT is in track 2 and Neet is in track 2. Next slide, please. So this is what I say myth. They say state board is in track 1. Next slide. They say CBSE in track 2. Where are you at present? When did your +2 start? Which month it started? April. When did you start preparing for +2 portions? Somewhere last year itself? So approximately you run 10 months. If you run 10 months in this area, where you will be now? Next slide, please. You are somewhere here. You are somewhere here trying to get your MBBS seat. But when Neet comes in, what they are trying to say you? What are they going to say? You have to come back to this area. Next slide, please. You have to start here and run here. Is it possible? Is it possible to get it or not? They try to demoralize you and say that it is not possible. It is not possible. But what is it fact here? Next slide, please. +2 students appearing for 2017 exams aiming to become doctors. What is the truth here I want to say? Next slide. What we are trying to say here. What DNA will do here. Next slide. We are saying both are not in the different track. What I told, how many percentage of the questions are there in your state board books? 80%. So what we want to stress here. Next slide. State board, CBSE, we are saying like this. But what we want to underline. Next slide. Both are in the same track. Both are in the same track, but little modulations. That is what is required here. You need not come down here and then take a track here. You can skip over to the side track here, provided the unit gives you exactly what is not there in state board and gives you what is there in the NCERT to make Neet successful here. That is what DNA is all about. Next slide. So what we are trying to say, both you are, so if you are the state board here, if this is a central board candidate, both of you are on the same track. Only thing he is little ahead. But if you put extra efforts, can you overcome this? Can you overcome and become a winner? Can you exceed that? Possible. Time is there. Time is there. 5 more months are there. If you are properly channelized, central board and state board does not carry much difference here. Much difference. The first thing I want